Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we do roll call, I would like for us all to take just a moment of silence and remember Deputy Elijah Ming, who was shot in the line of duty in Wyandotte County. Thank you. Condolences to his family and all of his coworkers, and to all of our first responders, please be careful. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Pape. Councilmember Shavetta.
Here.
Councilmember Kozmeyer.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Leahy.
Here.
Councilmember Ryder.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yadridge.
Here.
So our first item on the agenda is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken as each item is considered. Please note, individuals making public comments will be limited to a total of 5 minutes. In accordance with the governing body rules of procedure, the city reserves the right to refuse public comments that are personal, impertinent, or slanderous. I have no one signed up. Does anyone want to come forward? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Good evening, Chris, Council. Billy Cron, 663.
Excuse me, I'm President Hands.
President Hands. Okay, thank you. President Hands, Council. So I mentioned the sinkhole on 67th at the last meeting, and I'm glad to report that it has been the irrigation part of it. The leak has been fixed. There's some plates, but it's looking a lot better. I'm happy about that. We had some of the most aggressive storms in our city's in recent history about a week ago, and I'm a little disappointed that our city did not do a limb pickup. When I moved here, that was common practice after major storms because so many of our neighbors don't have trucks. And I would like to ask in the future that we do that to help our community out. Our Public Works Department also has trailers that were sitting empty, and they could have left those trailers in the neighborhoods that were hit the hardest for people to be able to pile timber on the fallen limbs. We could have done a lot more to help our residents, and we didn't. I think that's an opportunity for improvement, and I hope you push staff to do that. It was kind of unpleasant to have known how much we've given away to rich developers in this year and the last. Meanwhile, our residents don't even get that pickup. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment? Thank you. The next item is the consent agenda. All items listed under the heading are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately, which will be tricky tonight since there's only one item. Anyone need to remove this item, talk about it? Then I'll accept a motion. Yes, ma'am?
Mayor Hans, President Hans, I move that the council approve consent agenda item number 1.
Is there a second? Yes, Councilmember Shavetta.
I'll second that motion.
Panic?
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Kosemeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. So the next item is mayor's report, and our first item is to acknowledge receipt of the 2024 Independent Auditor's Report. We have Director Borth is going to come and share with us.
Yes, Madam President. So tonight we have John and Amy here from Allen Gibbs and Hulick. They are going to present our annual audit for the fiscal year 2024. And then staff can answer any questions once they're done with that.
Yes, please state your name and address for everyone.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Amy Tharnish. I'm with AGH at 9401 Indian Creek Parkway in Overland Park, Kansas. Good evening. So thank you for the opportunity to present the 2024 audit. The scope of our work is to complete an audit of the financial statements and provide an opinion over those statements. In addition to that, this year we performed a compliance engagement over the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds that the city expended. So I'm going to highlight key points and results from the audit and the compliance engagement. But before I begin, I want to thank Megan and her team and other city staff for their time. The audit process requires a significant amount of effort on their behalf, and so I want to say thank you for their assistance and responsiveness to make the audit go smoothly, so thank you. I'll start by noting that we issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. This is the best opinion that the financial statements can receive and means that the financial statements are materially accurate and reflect the books and records of the city. So the one thing we are required to do in accordance with audit standards is communicate certain items to keep you as the governing body informed about matters related to the audit. So the first is the letter that we sat on the DS for you. This letter addresses these required communications. And so I won't go over the entire letter, but I'd like to highlight some key items. So at the bottom of the first page is where we discuss any changes to accounting policies. And for 2024, the city did implement a new accounting policy related to compensated absences. So this standard requires the city to record a liability for sick leave and that's expected to be used by employees in addition to sick and vacation amounts that are paid out at termination. So prior to this standard, it was only amounts paid out at termination. So for 2024, the liability recorded increased by approximately $78,000 due to that new standard. On the top of the second page, we note that we did not identify any significant unusual transactions. And then on page 3, we list any audit adjustments that we made during the year. So we're required to show the impact of audit adjustments by fund. So that's why the schedule is set up the way it is. So I'd like to highlight that the same entry may have impacted multiple funds. So therefore, the same entry might be listed multiple times. So to kind of summarize what you see on page 3, the list of the entries, the audit adjustments were for investments, grant transactions, and the TIF receivable. Most of them relate to the investments, and the entries impacted multiple funds, as you can see, and it related to the interest receivable and adjustments of investments to market value. it's kind of in summary of what all those adjustments are for. And then on page 4, we are required to communicate any items that we may have found during the audit, but were not ultimately recorded in the financial statements. Those are considered uncorrected misstatements that are considered immaterial to the financial statements. And so the city did have one entry related to investment earnings in the capital improvement fund, and management determined, and we agreed to not record this entry on the financial statements. On page 5, and then continuing on to page 6, we discuss internal control matters. So we describe any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be a material weakness or a significant deficiency. Material weakness is where there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the financial statements will not be prevented or detected timely, and then a significant deficiency is a slightly less severe than a material weakness, but still important enough that requires attention. And so during the audit, we did note 2 material weaknesses. The first one relates to year-end reconciliations, and due to the audit adjustments we found, we noted this as a material weakness and recommend that management review its processes relating to year-end reconciliations just to verify that all material accounts are reconciled. And the second one relates to system access rights. With the implementation of the new financial system and open staff positions, system access rights were granted to allow access that exceeded what is necessary, but now that implementation is complete and all the staff positions are filled, we recommend that system access rights be reviewed and just verify that only access is granted that is necessary. So we did include management's response to both of those findings, so they address how these findings are going to be resolved. And then on page 7, we noted one last finding, which we consider to be a significant deficiency. This relates to the journal entry process and the approval of entries. We found during the audit, excuse me, that there were entries not properly approved or documentation of that approval was not retained. And so we just recommend that management review its process and verify that approval and the documentation of that approval is retained. And again, the management's response is included in the letter for your review. The last thing that we like to communicate is on the bottom of page 7, and that's kind of in the other matters section. These are topics that we like to just highlight to you as a governing body. The first is upcoming accounting standards that the city will review and determine whether or not they're applicable to the financial statements, and these all relate to future fiscal periods. And the other section is on electronic fund and wire transfers and cybersecurity. And these are just important matters that we like to put in as reminders due to all the risks that are out there currently. Next, I'd like to switch to the compliant engagement report. And so during the year, the city expended more than $750,000 in federal funds relating to the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds program. And so due to that, this year, the city was required to have a compliance engagement over the expenditures directly related to that program. And so we issued a compliance report, and in that, it has 2 auditors or accountants reports. On page 1 is the report on compliance, and this is where we verify that the city expended funds properly and was in compliance with the activities allowed under the program. And so I want to highlight that the city complied with all requirements. And then on the next report is on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. And this report notes that there were the 3 financial statement related findings. I'm not going to go over these again because they're the same as that I just discussed. We just are required to repeat those in the compliance report. And then on the last page, on page 8, we note that there were no compliance findings specifically related to the program fund expenditures. And so with that, I want to thank you for allowing me to present this evening, and I'll open it up to any questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
I don't have one of you, but I have one of Director Borth. Do you have anything you'd like to add to speak to how things have changed?
Yes, ma'am. So I guess I would just like to point out, you're more than welcome to read through the long-winded response that's in your packet. We thoroughly discussed these issues that were brought up and mapped out good solutions and resolutions to those. I do want to say that the team that was here in 2024 is not the team that's here now. And we recognize that every audit is a great chance for improvement. It's a good chance to look back at what was done, whether we were here or not. And then the best thing that my team can do now is take what was found, which is the auditor's job, and move forward as best as we can, trying to resolve any issues they found or just make our process better. And I think we've already implemented to address all 3 of these, but we'll keep looking at that throughout the year and just hope that next year we're coming to you with good news of being in a better place for the 2025 report.
Does anyone have any questions of Director Borth? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to also thank the auditors and the finance team and give a short-winded answer and just remind everyone that we lost 50 years of experience on our finance staff last year. We implemented a new software program, and when we were short-staffed, many of these things fell through the crack, which we apologize for, but that's the good news of having auditors. This is why we hire them. Again, there's not money missing. We just had some structural approval issues and some reconciliation issues that we needed to correct. So want to thank them for pointing those out, and thank Director Borth for taking up the mantle of making sure that this is addressed going forward.
Thank you. I'd like to, I'm open for a motion so that we can acknowledge receipt of the auditor's report. I would make the motion, but I don't think I'm supposed to.
I gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
President Hans, I move that the council acknowledge receipt of the city's 2024 financial audit reports.
Is there a second? Yes. Council.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Cosmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hans.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you very much for all your time and efforts. As you can tell, Mayor Bob Pape is not here this evening, but he was thinking of us and sent me a mayor's report last night at 10:30. So I am now going to read the mayor's report. The mayor and several council members attended Nancy Yoakum's retirement party. Nancy has been an integral part of Team Merriam for many years, and she will be missed. Mayor and a council member attended the wrap-up meeting for Flags for Freedom. The event went as planned. There probably will be some adjustments. We had more than expected tattered flags, and so we may be asking for more funds. We haven't figured that all out yet. The mayor attended the Northeast Johnson County Mayor's Luncheon. It was hosted by Fairway, and he feels like sharing important happenings in each sitting was discussed, and it was a really good meeting. The mayor attended a block party in Ward 4 and spoke to residents about what is happening in the city. He really likes the grant program for the block parties, probably not just because he gets to go to the parties, but because it really gets neighbors together. A couple of council members met with Mr. Engel to develop tonight's agenda. And the mayor wants to point out that he traveled around the city for 3 days and helped over 125 residents by picking up tree limbs with his truck and trailer after the storm on the 17th. A thank you goes out to Public Works crew for the free limb drop-off. And then he said they were very helpful in helping unload the trailer. In light of the severe storms, having a place to drop off limbs is what really makes Merriam a great city. He apologizes for missing tonight, but he's on vacation. I'm going to add some of my own, and that is that several of us attended a ribbon cutting for Integrity Heating and Air, and it was very well attended. Staff and as well as council members attended that. So wonderful to have a young business person in the community. I didn't get to attend, but I know there was a Turning 5 party at Merriam Community Center. Hopefully someone got to attend. Good. Someone did. Good. And then I also picked up from the admin report that the Ingram's Magazine had listed 3 businesses in Merriam in the in the best businesses in Kansas City area for 2025. And those 3 were Advent Health, Aristocrat Motors, and Hendricks Lexus. Just Lexus, not all of Hendricks. And that's all I have for Mayor's report unless somebody else has something else to add. He won't mind. Okay, given that, we're going to move ahead to council items, and Chief McLaughlin has some really exciting news for us.
Very exciting. It's that time of the year again. It's UPO and STO time. Every year, I come before you with an updated version of the League of Kansas Municipalities, UPOCs and STOs. Basically, UPOC, which is the first one we're going to talk about, is Unified Public Offense Codes. Basically, what the League of Municipalities does, they codify all the misdemeanor state ordinances into a simple device that we can approve by one single ordinance and adopt those so we can enforce those on the city level. This year, they only made one minor change to UPOC from last year. They added a definition to critical infrastructure facilities. They added antennas, radio receivers, towers, wireless support structures, small cell facilities, and associated support structures to that ordinance. That was the only changes that the state legislatures made last year that affected these. As in past, we are going to remove sections 6.21 and 6.22 of the UPOC that involves criminal hunting because we have a city ordinance that covers those in a different way. I also listed in my memo, or my agenda item on this, that we would be removing sections 9.9, 0.1 through 0.6. That's an error on my part, whereas in the past, we removed those because we had city ordinances that covered those. Since last year, we've decided to adopt the UPOC versions, and that is listed correctly in the actual ordinance that you'll be approving, that we will not be removing those for the UPOC. Other than that, I will answer any questions that you have about those.
Are there any questions? Except for me. When is it that these go into effect? Was it 7/1 or earlier?
Yes, if there's any changes to state statutes, they usually go into effect July 1st unless the legislature declares otherwise. So this one minor change went into effect July 1, but we don't really cite too many people for trespassing on critical infrastructure facilities in the city of Merriam, so.
Good. Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, this is some of why we waived the first reading, is because they're already in effect. So I will accept a motion. Yes, Ms. Yadrich.
President Hands, I move that the council waive the customary first reading of an ordinance adopting the 2025 Uniform Public Offense Code.
And a second, yes.
I'd like to second.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. And now I'd like a motion to approve the ordinance. Councilmember Godrich.
President Hands, I move that the council approve an ordinance 1892 adopting the 2025 Uniform Public Offense Code.
Yes.
I'd like to second that.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
The next item I have for you is approval of the STO, which is standard ordinances. Again, legislators are kind on us. They only had a couple minor changes. They added a new section, 40.3, which is passing a stationary vehicle displaying hazard or caution signals. Basically, it's the move over law, but they just decided to make it for all vehicles parked on the side of the road that either have their hazard warnings on or other cautionary signals or devices displayed. They made a minor change in the all-lawful operation of a work site utility vehicle. There's just some wordage change. The statute itself stays pretty much the same. And then they just renumbered failure to comply with the citation from 201.2 to 201.1. Again, we would recommend waiving first reading as these ordinances are already into effect in the state statute.
So are there any questions besides from me?
Okay, this is out of curiosity. How is a vehicle supposed to be signaled when it's off to the side, but like all electricity is gone?
You can put out flares. You can put out those safety triangles. You can put out a flashing red light behind your vehicle, like some flashlights will have those emergency flashers on them, those types of devices.
The least you can do probably if you don't have that is just put your hood up. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if that counts for this particular ordinance, but yeah, that would be a good recommendation. Let people know you're in trouble.
And my question is, what does slow down mean? If I'm on I-70, does it mean going down 50, 25? Do we know?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
There is no requirement for how much you have to slow down. It's going to be a judgment call on the officers whether or not you are slowing down to make the situation safer for the people involved on the side of the road.
Because sometimes I can't get in the other lane, so, okay. Thank you. If there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion. Yes, Councilmember Godrich.
President Hands, I move that the council waive the customary first reading of an ordinance adopting the 2025 Standard Traffic Ordinance.
And a second? Yes.
I second that.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, and then to finish the business, yes, Councilmember Yodrich.
Thank you, President Hands. I move that the council approve ordinance 1891 adopting the 2025 Standard Traffic Ordinance.
And the second, yes, Councilmember Shavetta.
President Hands, I second that.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. The next portion is the budget presentation. Mr. Engel.
Thank you, President Hands. Council. Next item on your agenda is a budget discussion on FTEs. That they're going to help me bring up real quick. Conversations relative to FTEs are pretty rare. We don't normally add FTEs to the budget, but one of the processes that we go through is an analysis each year when we are projecting what we need for the future budget year and look and see if there are increases in service levels, if there are deficiencies in what we can provide for those service levels for the public, and this is the appropriate time to bring it forward. We'll have to admit there's really two ways that we look at if we need or if we're recommending or considering the addition of FTEs. We can look at current deficiencies, meaning we have hard data that says we're getting behind on something, or we have an opportunity to look forward and what I call kind of reading the tea leaves. It's looking at trends, looking at trend lines, and deciding, trying to project forward, sometimes up to 18 months on what we think the future is going to look like. Again, it's important that we remember we are establishing a budget here in July that's not only for January of 26, but December of 26. I certainly don't know what's going to happen next week. It's even harder to figure out what we're going to need in January 26, even harder to know what we're going to need in December. And so we really sometimes are, again, projecting forward based on current trend lines. I think we've got two topics, or at least two FTEs to discuss, one that really fits each of those two different projections in terms of why we're even talking about it this evening. Let's see here. So we've got two of them. We've got a technology specialist, and we have a records administrator. Again, each of those probably are going to be based on a few different data points, some looking backwards, some looking forward. The first one is our technology specialist. That is going to be embedded in the IT department. It is pay grade K based on our salary survey. Which would put them in a range of $60,200 to about $88,500. That would be the range for that particular position. It would be banded in that pay grade K, same as an accountant, foreman, customer services manager, or a entry-level police officer. Total compensation estimate, that's salary and benefits, is about $97,500. That's an estimate because we don't know what type of benefits they're going to access if and when that position's hired. Justification is really just that as we continue to grow, our IT has continued to grow. We have not grown our IT since I've been here for over 12 years. Actually, I don't think we've done it in over 20 years. I think Andy has been the IT department since.
He was part-time when I started.
Yeah, since before we had IT.
Right.
So a little bit of background information. We did a 10-year look back. If we look at our end user devices, 10 years ago we had roughly 80. We had to estimate that, but we know now with end user devices we have about 200. With people that are in the field that use technology. We have several terminals that are in our police cars. We've got terminals that are in our public works vehicles and our codes vehicles. We have all of the devices that are in and around the buildings and our facilities. Software platforms, we had approximately 12. We have over 40 now. When you think of all of the different things that we do, all of the different interfaces that we have that link in and out of our website, those are growing exponentially over the last 10 years. Your Internet of Things connected devices, those are going to be everything from your smart thermostats to your cameras, to your doors, to all of the things that connect to the servers and the internet. That's now over approximately 150. Virtual cloud servers, this was a number I actually had to go back and get a little bit additional information on, but we have Dropbox as a cloud server. We use Dropbox to communicate with some of our candidates. We use cloud servers to track our vehicles. So when we have our snowplow vehicles, those are actually all tied to a cloud server, and that's how we interface those onto our website. So that number has increased quite a bit, as well as our own servers, Outlook server, things like that. Those are now all virtual. This is the big one, is our help desk tickets. As we have increased all of these points of access into our IT infrastructure, our help tickets go up all of the time. So now as we have more devices, we have more need for those things to be maintained, whether that's something as simple as I need a battery changed in my mouse, and we go, well, maybe that's why it doesn't work, go get your battery and test it out, or all the way up to replacement of a computer or just a broken connection between point A and point B. Remote access users, we used to be pretty rare. Now we have about 40 folks that can access remotely. Again, whether that's from our vehicles because they're out doing their work on the streets, whether that is our CIP software, our public works software that tracks where all of our infrastructure is. We've got quite a bit more remote access users. And then clearly all of these things have compliance. All of these things have to be maintained. The gateways have to be kept open. The sandboxes have to be protected from people that don't belong in the sandboxes. And that creates some complexity that we didn't have 10 years ago. So over the last 10 years, these are different 10 years as opposed to 14 to 24, but from 15 to 25, the budgets went up by 270%. We're still running with just Andy and IT. We looked at peer staffing in some of our neighboring communities just to kind of get an idea of what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how many people they're doing it with. Shawnee, clearly a bigger organization, but they're using 12 FTs and an intern. Leewood and Prairie Village are both very comparable to us in terms of the structure and the size of their organizations. They are 4 FTs and 3 FTs respectively. Very small communities, Spring Hill, Fairway, Mission, they do completely outsourced IT. They don't do anything in probably some very high level change a battery for a mouse, but most of their IT is outsourced, which is relatively expensive and a little bit less responsive. And then Olathe and I believe Overland Park, which we didn't get in here, they're primarily in-house and they just have full departments. They just have lots of people that are doing their staffing. So how have we kept up with only the one person? We've used contracted services. As we come forward every year, we've shown you in the budget where we have included $30,000, $40,000 so that we can have some contracted service to come in and help us out, help Andy out, help us individually. That's been great. It's helped fill a need. It's professional and it's timely. However, it is expensive. It is very expensive to use that contracted help. And it's really expensive if it's not utilized appropriately, meaning help desk items, things that are internal that we need someone to be keeping up with. But again, Andy is a department of one. He's been here long enough. He's got about 6 weeks of vacation. We're always badgering him to take that. When he's gone, we've got contracted help for a whole week, and we're spending a lot of money for help desk stuff as well as just help desk stuff and support throughout the course of the year when Andy's trying to be a little bit more strategic about the direction that our IT is going. So we've been able to do that with contract support, but again, getting very expensive. So what would this position do? Primarily, it's going to be daily user interface, help desk, troubleshooting, training, all of the things that we need internally to keep ourselves safe. I assume most of you, if not all of you, have some sort of IT professional. They are a very nervous kind. They're very scary. They're always. It's not when. It's not if we've been hacked. When are we going to be hacked? They're constantly harping and trying to keep our organization safe from a lot of bad actors that are out there. Adding this position would allow most of the daily internal maintenance of our IT to fall to this particular position. So Andy and any contracted support can kind of elevate up and be a little bit more strategic in their workflow. In addition, I think just as important is that last bullet point, which is provide continuity. Andy's not going to be here forever. Andy has been our IT support for 20 years. At some point in time, he's going to leave, and this is not going to be a Frisbee toss. This is going to have to be a slow baton. We're going to have his hand and potential replacement's hands on that baton because we can't drop our IT support. It's just too critical to our infrastructure these days and our service levels. So being able to have someone that could potentially replace Andy is important. And then again, it allows us some smarter use of contracted services. Again, current model, we've got pretty inefficient way of doing some of our business just because we don't have the FTE support. If we can add this person in here, then city staff can handle those daily support and help desk items, routine maintenance, while the consultant could focus on cybersecurity, networking, strategic planning. Those are the things that really do the most damage, and we really need to devote that higher level time and thinking and effort to. This position is baked into the budget that has been previously presented to you. That was shared on a slide, I believe, last meeting. We certainly can remove that from the budget, but just to let you know that the budget is currently built with this position in it. Again, we can remove it if you would like. That being said, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has about that position. And if I can't answer them, I think Caitlin can answer them.
You can go ahead.
How much will we see the contract services be reduced in next year's budget? That should offset a big portion of this.
I don't have an answer for that off the top of my head.
I would assume not at first a whole lot. It's going to be a periodic decrease over the next few years as we bring this person on board. As Chris mentioned, as we bring someone on board, since Andy's been our #1 person for so long, this person's going to have a lot to learn, and this contractor has been kind of Andy's right-hand man the whole time, and so it's going to be a slow transition. So the contract services should decrease as the years progress.
Yes, go ahead.
Not necessarily a question, but it was a little shocking to see 1,200 help desk tickets, and then I was glad to hear that Andy's not responding to all of those.
Yeah. We have done a pretty good effort of trying to have IT people in each department that we can kind of assign to some of those help desk type of tasks so that we can take those things off of Andy's plate. So we're not using Robert, who's our contracted assist, and Andy doing that when, again, if it's literally, it's a battery, or hey, we just need a new monitor, or we need a new cord, or hey, your battery backup is beeping because the battery in it's dead, we just need to replace the battery, get you new but I mean, all of those things, the more terminals you have, the more tech you have, the more connections you have. One of the things we didn't consider is, you know, when you go through a lot of public safety interfaces that interface either through Overland Park, because we use Overland Park, or the county. There's a lot of security and gateways and a lot of protection that goes through all of that. And when those things, little things fall apart, we go blind on a lot of things. So there's a lot of large, I wouldn't say they're projects, but large help desk ticket items that occupy quite a bit of their time. So we've tried to push some of those smaller things down into the departments, but nevertheless, they still exist.
Councilmember Leahy has a question.
Not so much a question, but just a kind of an intangible benefit to having somebody else on staff is it makes everybody else more productive. That they're not waiting on Andy to get to their item or their issue, and they're not sitting around on their hands or being hamstrung by their inability to work or something in the way. So
That's our hope.
That's an intangible benefit that I see.
Yeah, that's our hope. I think Caitlin did a good job of summarizing it. Andy really he's built everything that we have. I mean, that doesn't mean it's not best practices, doesn't mean that we don't send him and make sure that he's current on systems and integration and things like that. But he really is the gatekeeper of a lot of information. I mean, he knows how all of these things are configured. And again, not that we can't bring someone in to learn those, but it will take some time because he has literally handcrafted this on his own.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Engel on this? Okay.
Again, this is baked into the budget. We're happy to pull this out if that is the request of the council, and we can have an independent vote on this. But again, from a staff perspective, we built this into the budget because we felt that it was needed and it was justified. We just did not have the opportunity to get this explained when we did the initial presentation of the budget. So I apologize for that, but again, baked into the budget. This second position is not baked into the budget yet. And that position is a records administrator. So records administrator would be embedded in the admin department. It's pay grade H, that's $51,600 to $72,200. That would be the same as a facilities worker 2, a maintenance worker 2, or a mechanic. We anticipate that the compensation estimate, salaries and benefits, would be $85,500. And the duties of this individual would be they'd be responsible for maintaining, receiving, indexing, retrieving, archiving, and destroying any records in accordance with applicable laws, codes, and regulations, preservation of historical archival records, and then provides general office support. So those would be the tasks. The justification for this is more projection-based. When we talked about the two ways that we look at bringing on potential new FTEs, this is really, we're reading the tea leaves. But I do have some data points to share with you that kind of inform why we think this is the direction that we need to head. The first one, these are going to just be kind of, they're going to seem like random data points, but they do inform, I promise this is going somewhere, is our mission statement. This is our mission statement that is in front of beginning of every one of our budgets. It's on our website. This is really kind of the North Star that guides most of what we do, and that's to serve the public with transparent government focused on progress. Very simple, very well stated in my opinion. We've never really felt a need, or at least it's not been conveyed to me, that we need to tackle and come up with a new mission statement, because I think this says everything that really has guided the last 15 to 20 years in this community. But it's important that we point out that it's transparent government. Why transparent government? Transparent government to the reasonable person is trustworthy government, right? If we are transparent and we are accessible, then reasonable people should have no reason not to trust us. So transparent government is very important. It's so important that if you dig into our Merriam Code of Ordinances, our founding fathers or our predecessors in terms of leading this city or this organization clearly found that it was important enough that when they spelled out the authorized or recommended department heads and other official staff positions in our code, which is the skeletal structure, again, of everything that we do, the local Freedom of Information officer was recommended as a staff position. We have been very fortunate, I guess is the word, that we've been able to embed those duties within the city clerk, which is the number 2, maybe most important position in the organization. But local Freedom of Information officer is clearly spelled out in our code. So that has been contemplated in the past. Again, we have not had that position, but it is a function that is clearly important to transparent government. The next data point is state statute. State statute in Kansas, we've got COMA, which is Kansas Open Meetings Act, and we've got CORA, which is Kansas Open Records Act. Those represent our sunshine laws. Those are the laws that, well, we would follow them anyway because they're good governance and they're the right thing to do for a free and democratic society. They're actually mandated by the state. So we have Kansas Open Records Act specifically that we're going to talk about here because this is a records position. So from the act, we've got all public records shall be open for inspection by any person except as otherwise provided by this act, and suitable facilities shall be made available by each public agency for this purpose. It's important. All public records shall be open for inspection by any person. That's a requirement from the state. Again, it's a great idea. We would do it anyway, but it's a requirement. One of the additional requirements is the response to the request, and that's subsection D. Each request for access to a public record shall be acted upon as soon as possible, but not later than the end of the 3rd business day following the date that the request is received. If we take this literally, as some individuals do, that means the second we get an open records request, that is our priority as a staff, is to fulfill that open records request. Not only is that the priority as soon as possible, but no later than the 3rd business day. And if access to that public record is not granted immediately, the custodian, who is us, shall give a detailed explanation for the cause of the further delay and the place and earliest time and date that that record will be available for inspection. We don't just get to say, hey, we'll get to it. We have to actually have a formal response if we can't get to it immediately, no later than the 3rd business day. So now I'm going to just share with you what our open records requests look like. Because this is going to.
Does that mean if we get a open records request that the chief has to kind of find time in his day to go search for pertinent information, or
all of us?
Any director has to stop helping the public to go find this information within 3 business days?
That is correct. That is correct. Depending on how broadly the request is, I mean, if someone asks specifically for something from police, we're probably not going to send it to Park and Recs.
Yeah.
But if it's broadly defined what they're looking for, then yeah, it could be all. And I'll actually get into some of the issues we have with any and all
It's
requests.
like, the chief taking care of the stuff he has to go take care of, or Brian taking care of the staff taking care of grant applications.
It can be now. It also could be, if it's a records request, that would be something that Rhonda, who's the clerk over there, could handle. Rhonda would handle it. But it depends on the nature of the request. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
I agree.
But it is a priority that it doesn't matter what else is going on.
Understood.
So these are open records requests since 2022 through 7/21/2015. You can see that through the first 6.5 months of 2025, we're already higher than the last 5 years in terms of requests. Again, this is just through the first 6.5 months. However, the issue is that this increase is really being driven by one individual. This one individual, it's not just the one individual, but it's the type of requests that are being made. So you can see that actually overall requests are going down, but we are seeing an increase from one particular resident. And so I would, when I look at this and based on the nature of them, I would personally categorize many of these requests as a little bit of conspiracy, a little bit of FOMO, which kids, that's fear of missing out. At least that's what my daughter tells me. There's a little bit, in my opinion, of harassment that's involved in there. But for the sake of the position, let's just call it open-ended requests. That's what these requests are. They're open-ended requests. Open-ended requests are requests for any and all documents. They're driven by often need, as opposed to something that we can look at and say this is what it's for. So I'm just going to read a couple examples of some of what these are, just so you kind of understand the type of requests that we're dealing with. And I'm going to read them just right off the board here, so please bear with me. In accordance with KSA 754317A and 754318, this is a written request for the date, time, place, and agenda, if created, of any regular or special meeting of all committees or subcommittees, et cetera, in Merriam, funded by Merriam, or in which Merriam participates. There is another request that says, I need a complete list of all bodies which currently exist, active or inactive, for the conduct of the affairs of and the transaction of business by all legislative and administrative bodies and agencies of Merriam, Kansas, including boards, commissions, authorities, councils, committees, subcommittees, and other subordinate groups thereof, receiving or expending and supported in whole or in part by public funds. It was included that this was wordy language from 754318 that was included in this. But again, need, all, any. More open-ended requests. We've got any electronic mail, which is email, text messages or memos containing this individual's name sent by city employees between the dates of X and Y, this was a 6-month period, not directly sent to the individual, present on any device or service controlled by the city or a city employee at the time of the request. Any, all. All 2025 correspondence or memos regarding this individual between any department, particular department staff, and other city staff. All 2025 correspondence or memos regarding this individual between this particular department staff and elected officials. All 2025 correspondence or memos regarding this individual between any department staff and any third-party personnel or firm hired by the city. Again, open-ended, any and all. These are several requests that we have. All block party grants applications for this particular year. I'm interested in both of them for any parties to occur in this particular year or any forms filed in this particular year, if that's how you store them. Application to hold a neighborhood block party grant. Subsequent requests are block party applications with receipt number 50 to 61. Subsequent to that, block party applications with receipt numbers greater than or equal to 69. Subsequent to that, block party applications received on or after this particular date, likely the same ones with receipt numbers greater than or equal to 69. So we're even into maybe some redundant information here that's already been asked for. We usually try to do our best is that the any and all requests require an inordinate amount of staff time. I mean, this is not just taxpayer dollars. This is an inordinate amount of staff time. We have attempted to narrow these requests to save taxpayer dollars, to save staff time, so that we can narrow the request. This is an example of a response to an any and all, and these are all almost verbatim. City has 118 employees who will all need to search their email per your request. After those emails are located, staff will then be required to sort through those emails to eliminate those not directly sent to you within the time frame specified in your request. This process will take several hours to complete, which would greatly exceed the $20 limit you placed on your request. Per the city's schedule of fees, research fees for records is charged at a rate of $25 an hour. That $25 is a problem. I'm going to address that in a couple slides here, that is insufficient amount of funds. And internally, we don't apply that in all circumstances that we probably should, but we'll talk about that in a few seconds. If you would prefer to revise your request to limit to certain employees, it would greatly reduce the staff time cost. The request as submitted currently could cost in excess of $500. 118 employees spend 15 minutes each. That's 29.5 hours times $25 an hour. That's $737.50. That's what we would charge. That's not actually the cost of the effort. That's just what we would charge. And then please advise as to how, and this is all from the same response, please advise as to how you would like me to proceed with your records request. I've attached a records request form should you choose to resubmit a modified request. I'm going to come back to the records request form too here in a couple seconds. Another example of attempting to narrow these requests to save some staff time and taxpayer money is to try to seek some clarification. Can you please provide the date of the City Council admin report email you are requesting? The most recent does not provide adequate information to ensure I am providing the correct record you are requesting. In response, we get, yes, it does. You know very well what I asked for. Do you think the district attorney or any judge is going to find that response reasonable? We're just trying to streamline what the request is. So back to the records request form. We have tried to streamline this over the years. We started with a form, tried to create a form that would streamline all of this, that would ask for the right information. We have recently spent staff time, taxpayer money, to create a database for the submittal of open records request. Many of our neighboring communities only accept them via open records request. And it also helps us track the request. These are responses that we've received to streamline the process. Statute does not allow bodies to mandate a specific form for request of meeting notice. Another response we received was, you have in the past asked that I use a specific form, so to save us time, acknowledgement of why we asked, I will note in this initial request per Kansas statute that I am not required to use a specific form for this request, and I do not intend to repeat this request in another form. When we've asked for ways to, where is compromise in here so we can do something about these requests? This is compromise. Compromise is being included on, voluntarily included on all communications. These are the same types of records that I received on this particular date at this particular time, but this is a new request for a new time period. If you are willing to provide these records to me when you receive them, voluntary notice, then I will stop requesting them via COMA. Should be CORA, but this is, again, this is a response to us trying to streamline the process so we are not putting inordinate draw on the city clerk's time or other staff members with these any and all requests. So this individual has requested to be put on every email that gets sent between you all, between staff and you all, between staff and committee members. And we have said that we're not going to add you onto these distribution lists. If you need them, there's a method for you to get them. And so this is basically where we're being, what's being leveraged against us. We also get leveraged against us, here, this is one of my favorites, this is not a lone occurrence, but please acknowledge receipt of this message sent 2025-0606 at 1620 Central Time. For those that don't have a calendar in front of you, that is Friday at 4:20, 10 minutes before we leave. Why would we want an acknowledgement of that? Because it starts the clock on when this individual will then hit us back up and tell us that we have gone longer than we should for the response. I have been here on weekends where we have received an email within the last 15 minutes requesting information, and then we were called within the next 10 minutes to get a verbal confirmation that we received the request before we walked out of the door on a Friday. Again, and when those things, as they sometimes do, when they're not streamlined and we're getting random emails that are crafted in a individual's own hand, this request has gone without response for 4 days at this point. That is longer than permitted by KSA 45218D. So that is kind of what we are dealing with when it comes to open records, but this is, in addition to wanting to be included on every email between staff or between staff and city council, this isn't just about open records. If you just look at the open records request, you'd look at those numbers and say, we can't continue to absorb those even if they were to double over the next 6 months. We probably could, but this is more than just formal records requests. This goes back years. It impacts many staff members and our ability to efficiently do our jobs. To make sure that this assessment was fair and balanced, the first week of June, I had IT do an Outlook server search. They searched the last 60 months. They used this a very unique manufactured last name that can't be confused with any other word that might show up on our server. I had them search all of our city email accounts, and these were the results. We have 62 email accounts that have emails with the search term in it. Again, these are, and there's 1,722 occurrences of that search term that are present in our Outlook server. That's not including emails that have been received and deleted. Those, at least the first week of June, currently reside on our server. It equals 2.5 gigabytes on our server of this particular term. We didn't individually go through each of these records. This was just the search results, so that's all this is. So we'll readily admit, these are likely, some of them are the same emails, but that is also part of the problem. It takes staff time to read. If we send one email to 6 people and it takes them 5 or 10 minutes to get through all of it, that's 5 or 10 minutes of staff time that is still being expended. I want to talk about the 1,722 in context. We have 52 weeks in a year, and we've got 5 work days in 50 times 52 weeks. That's 260 work days. That's not even holidays. 260 work days times the 5 years that we searched. 260 times 5 years. That's 1,300 work days. In the last 5 years, there have been 1,300 work days. There are 1,722 instances of this individual's name currently on our server. If you take 5 minutes times 1,722 occurrences, it doesn't matter who was reading that occurrence, and it's 5 minutes each, that's 143 and a half hours that have been devoted to reading these messages. My issue with all of that, it's lost productivity. It's lost productivity that effectively we have one individual that is leveraging the intent of the statutes to effectively have their requests subsidized and the service levels impacted of the 11,199 other Merriam residents. And we continue to move forward with that because we are required by state law, as we are constantly reminded. To illustrate kind of, it's not just the lost time, but also what exacerbates this is the cost. And that's really where I'm going to jump into next for the next couple slides. We have the ability to charge $25 an hour for a request. If it's a request that requires all department heads, there are 7 department heads, that's $175 an hour that we can charge. However, all the remaining taxpayers are going to pay $345 because it doesn't just cost $175 for department heads to spend an hour responding or reading emails or addressing an individual's concerns. The city attorney, an hour of his work, we're going to charge $25. He charges us $215 an hour, which means all the rest of the taxpayers for that hour's worth of work are picking up $190 of his bill. City engineer, $25 is what we're going to charge the requester. City engineer, The rest of the residents are going to pick up $195 because we pay the city engineer $220 an hour. These are two real-world examples, real-world examples. This was a request for a resume for a staff member. We received it, we received the request, we read it, 5 minutes, about $12.50. Search for the records was 15 minutes, that's about $15. Legal research by 2 individuals to figure out, is a resume discoverable, because nobody's ever requested a resume before. That was about $64, and then a 5-minute response to the individual was $3.74. Total cost of that request was $95 to the taxpayers, an hour of staff time, and we did not turn the resume over because we didn't need to turn the resume over. A recent request for messages between the city and FEMA, 5-minute to receive it, that's 12.5 minutes. $12.50. Search for records. Those 4 people were the community development director, the city administrator, the city engineer, and the public works director. That 15 minutes cost $114 for all of us to look through our files for a request. Response was $374. Total cost of that request was 70 minutes of lost staff time. Cost taxpayers $130 for that amount of time, and there were no records that existed. But there's 70 minutes of lost staff time, $130 that went to the taxpayers. Again, it's not just the general public having to subsidize the needs of a single individual. It's the loss of productivity that comes along with it. So what are the solutions? I don't have great solutions. I have 3 solutions. We can add a records administrator. Records administrator would have access to all of our emails, would be able to, for one cost, would be able to go through all of our records and address not just the open records request, but the barrage of emails over the last decade asking the variety of questions that get asked of staff. Another option would be that we could charge for staff time for all submitted requests. That's part of the problem that we have, is that because we believe in transparency, because most people that come in and make requests are just asking for one request, and we want people to trust government and have these things, we normally don't charge. This individual, I'm not sure if they've ever paid. I don't know that we've ever charged this individual, even though many of these requests take a lot of time, because we can't charge one person and not another one. The problem is that if we charge this individual because it's 25-minute request, 60-minute request, 30-minute request, 25-minute request, and it equals hours, we don't believe that it's right to not charge someone. We can't just charge one individual and not everybody else that does. But that means now that the people that come in and aren't abusing the intent and the spirit of the statute, they're going to have to pay, because the taxpayers are subsidizing all of these requests. So that would be your second option. Third option is do nothing. We can just stand by, we can wait, we can watch, we can acknowledge a decrease in service levels for our residents. We have talked internally about what can we do to free up more time to address these records requests. Should we stop doing business license? Should we stop doing pet license? What are the things that we can take off the clerk's plate so that we can address all of these requests? None of the options are great. So I'm not asking for a decision to be made tonight. I think we can bring this back after everybody's had some time to think about it, and we can see if there's other options that become apparent. I'm certainly open to other options. I've reached out to other managers, and this is not anything that anyone is dealing with. No one has just a records custodian or a freedom of information officer. People are able to manage this within the normal flow of business. That, unfortunately, is becoming more and more difficult as the days go by. So I'm certainly receptive to council direction, but as part of the budget process and as the city administrator, it's my job to come to you and tell you when service levels are or are going to be impacted because of changes in demand. That is where we are. That's why I'm standing in front of you right now. I certainly, again, would be open if there are other suggestions. I don't have them. These are the 3 as I see them. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question, what does the KORA, what's the state statutes say about charging individuals for research time?
So what we can do is we can charge the amount of the least expensive person that can complete the job. Is that about the best way to explain it?
Yeah, so there was an amendment to the Open Records Act request, which just became effective July 1 of this year. And basically, it says when we're gathering records, we have to use, we get to charge the actual staff time for fulfillment of the records request of the least expensive, capable staff member who can fulfill the request. So, that's at $25, we're probably, that's probably a pretty good ballpark. But Chris is right. I mean, if you need involvement of higher level people, then in theory, you could, under the statutory scheme, establish varying fees for varying types of individuals who are necessary to fulfill the request, but then potentially you're opening yourself up to, well, did you really need a department head to work on this versus an intern, because of the statutory changes which became effective this year.
But wouldn't that also mean having some junior level employees reading through department heads' emails that may contain pertinent search terms?
And going through our file cabinets, and
If
because
we're
we have to dig
using
out files a lot of
Yeah.
times, right?
The lowest
for
waged
open
employee
records
capable
requests.
of performing the.
Right, so.
Or HR, there's a lot of HR requests, and we'd have to have somebody potentially going through that too.
I mean, when you look at the Open Records Act, 45221, Chris is right. The general rule is openness of records. However, there are 40-plus exemptions of records that aren't open. And so oftentimes, we don't know whether something that is part of an email scrape is going to fit within one of those categories without a fairly labor-intensive review of all of those records. One of the things that I always get from the jurisdictions I represent is attorney-client privilege records are not subject to disclosure, but so you don't waive the privilege, you have to be mindful as to who has eyes on those types of records. So yes, you do have to take confidentiality considerations. Personnel records, every department I know of treats, for example, internal affairs records over at the police department as personnel records. Those are highly sensitive. Those have individuals in there. You've got victims' names in there. You've got confidential informants' names in there. Same with the criminal records. So yes, you have to be very mindful as to who is reviewing the various records.
Yes. Sorry, yes.
So regarding that open records request form, I did a little perusing of a couple of different Kansas state government websites, and they all provide a form to standardize requests and make things easier for their records custodian. And then they also specify that the requester would have to pay for staff time more than a minimal amount. So there's that possible, beyond, X dollars. And then just next door in Wyandotte County, the UG, they mandate either using an online web portal to do open records requests or request by mail, just to maintain a consistent and traceable record. I wasn't able to log in, or I didn't create an account to log into their system, but the system also, it sounds like, makes, the requests themselves public, which I think is an interesting exercise in transparency there too.
Yeah, we created an online submittal form, again, devoted quite a bit of staff time to make sure that, again, if the clerk is not here, that it gets routed and we don't lose these things somewhere in that email vacuum. We haven't been successful. What we have done quite a bit is she will receive the requests from this individual, and then she will just put them into the system herself and respond through the system, but that requires an extra step of her putting it in there. But yeah, we have an online option. We have an online option.
Yes.
What does statute say about the online form and being able to enforce the streamline capability of that?
Says you can't. Says you can have a form, but they can, a records requester, as long as they submit a records request, then the municipality has to take it in whatever form it exists.
So how do our neighbors, like the UG, say they have to use the form?
They may drive people to that form, but I mean, I represent the UG in all kinds of matters. But if they get a form, if they get a request that doesn't use the form, they will still honor it.
I think I saw on their website that they requested via the form or like mailed in requests. So I don't think like an email or a phone call.
Yes, sir.
One thing, just so I'm clear, we tried to set up a form to expedite the process and reduce the burden on staff time. And rather than follow that process that reduces the burden on staff time, the person in question has continued to circumvent that and submit any type of question they want pertinent to the Kansas Open Records Request Act that may take more staff time, more hours, greater burden to the taxpayers, correct?
They are not using the online form that we have provided.
I will also say real quick, Bruce, and to you, the professional services rates, working in a firm that does professional services, those are pretty good rates. So I know that my office charges quite a bit more for our individuals.
Yeah, another question. Are the record requests, open record request, subject to open record requests?
They are individually, if you're looking for.
So if I made a request that said, show me all of your open record requests, would you provide me with all the open record requests?
Yeah, we would.
So we've been talking about this one individual, but if someone asked for them all, we would all know who that individual is. Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah. Any document that we have, if you wanted us to research, cull those, put those together, create a document, that would not be in open records.
Which
But
would
the
include all
individual
of these
records-
open record requests that have been
But the individual
made
records are.
by, so that could all be put anywhere. Okay, thank you. Made public, I guess.
I have two items. I think the thing that I found most shocking from your presentation is that someone would request block party grant information, and I find that concerning because that has people's names, phone numbers, addresses, which is part of filling out a grant application. But I just find that really concerning that someone's pulling that information.
We redact everything except for address and.
Name and address.
Name
We
and
redact
address.
email
So we
and cell
redact
phone.
email and cell phone numbers.
Okay, thank you.
But address and name.
And I just want to say that I think this new position could save the city a lot of money. I did do a quick little search, and I noticed that if the person is hired at the $85,000 salary cap, I guess, for that position, is that correct?
That would be the long end. It would.
Yeah. That is equivalent to more than 4 large item pickup. Limb pickups. Thank you. That's 4 limb pickup costs. That's 2 years worth of.
$5 an hour.
Yeah,
Way more than.
but the average cost for a limb item pickup is between $20,000 and $25,000.
Yes, sir.
I know you mentioned it earlier, talking about reading the tea leaves, and, we're only through, or I guess your dates, your
6.5 months.
Yeah, 6.5 months, and we've already far exceeded 2022 and subsequent years, really. And, if this trend continues for years to come, I mean, while today and yesterday we can probably absorb it, but, this trend is going to start taking a lot of staff time if it keeps it up at the same rates that it is. And I do get the need for taking that burden off. I mean, it's a burden on the staff, and it's eating into the services that we can provide. It may be small now or small yesterday, but if it continues to grow like it is, it's going to reduce the services that we can provide. Or it's going to increase time and budget. Like, we're going to have to increase budget, which may mean raising taxes, or may mean cutting services at a larger scale somewhere else. Maybe we have to cut $80,000 in grants in order to keep our current level of expenditures the same. So I don't know if I have a solution either. I think, but I just wanted to say that, looking at the growth trends, it's going to be a problem. And what impact it has now is only going to get worse.
That's staff's concern.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so looking at that KSA 45-218, where it talks about core requirements, so like, I don't think, right, it can probably be proven that this dramatic increase is intended to disrupt city functions. But if the increase in public records request is causing, an unreasonable burden on staff, then I don't think number 3 of your options at least is feasible in the long term. But would it be possible to potentially do some combination of 1 and 2, hire this records administrator, and then for, some amount of open records requests, that would still, the requester would pay to help defray some of that cost. So then, as we were saying, like, that $85,000 of, total compensation package could be defrayed some.
That is an option. Another option would be we could just increase the charge for staff time. I mean, the issue is that, I think I had it back there in one of those slides, only 16% of our employees make less than $25 an hour. So, and those are going to be entry-level employees. The information that is being requested, in almost all open records requests, is coming from the higher quartiles of the staff, right? So the $25 is just not offsetting the cost of individual request. And it doesn't have to. If I'm being completely honest, it does not have to. But generally, if we've got an individual that wants increased level of services, there is some sort of mechanism in place that those things can be offset. But it doesn't have to be that way. But this is, again, I'm reading the tea leaves. I'm trying to look 18 months in advance and say, at the current trend, this will be an issue. I mean, it's already a minor issue, but it is not getting any better.
I want to add that years ago, we had someone on council who was abusing the request for all kinds of paper, and we were very paper-focused because, I've been around for a while. And we worked very hard, put together a policy. It's not, you can't just move it over to this situation. Put together a policy that said, if what you're requesting isn't legitimately for your job, you are going to have to pay for it. I hope that there's some way we can say, if this is not, we've got to get to a point of saying this is not a reasonable request. We can't just impose on staff over and over again to fill every request. And at some point, when you're asking for the same information you've already gotten, that is really not a reasonable request.
Yeah, I certainly don't know that we can make those type of determinations on what is subject to, what we can do is the mechanism we have is charge, right? Again, all of these
That's what we
requests,
used.
and based on the head nod, I don't think we've charged for any of it. The issue is that we will be charging everyone now. There are a lot of people that say, I'm coming in and I'm buying this house. I would like to know anything that you have on permits on this house. That might take us a couple hours because we're digging into file folders. We don't normally charge for that because we want to be transparent. We want to be open, but we also know that this individual probably is not coming back with 4 more requests this week.
And I think there's a way that we can say, here's a request. First 2 hours are free or something like that, because most of them you're going to do in a short amount of time. But a way that we can deal with these global ones, that take multiple hours, and some sort of scale of the first hours at $25 and the
We certainly could try to put together
Or
some sort of,
$100 and-
as the city attorney said, some sort of fee structure where we
Right.
say, okay, if it's this type of request,
Quite frankly,
is
we
what it is
probably
if
are gonna
it's-
end up with a records administrator trying to track all
Administrate
of that. you
well,
know.
that's why we need, at the current trend, we would need someone that could dedicate
Right.
themselves to that effort, because the clerk has other duties, on their plate.
Can I make a comment? So typically, if the request takes less than 30 minutes, if the record's readily available, we provide that, and we don't charge. 30 minutes is a reasonable amount of time. Anything above 30, then we start with the $25. So we already kind of do that in practice. It's not written anywhere, but that is our practice. Again, building permit information on a home, we have a lot of that stuff electronically. I can, retrieve it, provide it within less than 30 minutes, and we don't charge. So that's kind of our rule of thumb.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to clarify back to the root of what we're looking at is that one resident is taking up so much of our staff time that they are less productive, and we have to increase our budget, our tax dollars. You're suggesting we increase our budget and community tax dollars to deal with this one problem, while department heads and everything would still have to oblige the requests and go through all of their stuff. So it doesn't make sense. I don't know. It doesn't make sense that it's, again, I don't have the solution, but that we are having to collect more from the community in tax dollars for what could, I mean, I saw a message in there that I didn't like the threatening tone of it, I don't think that's fair to our staff. It's not fair to our residents who are paying taxes.
Well, I would agree with that completely. I would also agree, and more, I guess, selfishly for me, is I'm trying to protect my staff. I have staff that, as I use the word, this is Chris's word, just as a person on the outside looking in, it's harassment. When someone doesn't get what they want and they do an open records request of your oath of office, and then they follow that up with an open records request of your resume, and then they do an open records request of your salary. And I mean, these are, these, I don't know what we call those. We'll just call them open-ended requests. We'll call them curiosities. We'll call them whatever we want. But, I have staff members that are, that are not being treated fairly by.
That are feeling harassed. They are.
Lack of better way to put it than that, yes, correct.
Well, and in all fairness.
We are bound by the law.
Right, yes. The First Amendment will always win,
Sure.
right? But we up here have been elected and chosen to put our lives out in the public by being candidates.
Sure.
The staff is doing their jobs. And that's a clear line to me. But First Amendment always wins.
So again, I'm not, as it is becoming clear, that this is not a clear-cut answer for this particular thing. I think what perhaps staff could do is try to put together a better roadmap for requests, a better roadmap for when and where and how much we charge, and come back and present that to council as an alternative to this position, or maybe as an accompaniment to the position to offset the cost of the position. But again, I don't think we're not looking for an answer tonight, because we've struggled with this for years, to be quite honest with you, and have not found an answer. So we wouldn't expect you to find it tonight.
Yes.
Sorry, I just have one more thing to say in regards to the budget. Like, we're talking about lowering the mill rate, and that's based on the budget that we've been building. But if we add this position in, we probably won't be able to do that.
We would have to dig pretty deep and look at our projections
To
and see.
provide the same level of service that we've already been talking about for the last couple of months. And
This is not built into
the
the budget that has a decrease.
the CIP that we're already promising people, stormwater projects that we're already promising residents to do this.
So we might have to increase or not decrease our mill levy to accommodate what's going on.
We would have to put that in the budget and and see what that would look like.
Or reduce services.
Or reduce services, that is always an option also.
Again,
it?
because of
Is
one
it?
resident.
Is it an option to anyone up here on the dais that we would reduce services? What we swore to help our residents with? Just an open-ended answer or a question. I don't need an answer. Just like
I
that's,
just point that out. That's part of the decisions that we're faced with because of this issue.
Yes.
So theoretically, if things kind of go back in reverse and our one resident stops requesting so much, this records administrator position would essentially become obsolete.
That would be a risk, yes. That would be a risk. If we had this position and we didn't have the work for this position, yes, this position. Again, this is projecting out and assuming this is the new norm.
And that's why I would be more supportive of having some kind of a schedule of a request, a hierarchy of costs instead of an FTE.
I would suspect that more paid requests, there would be less requests fulfilled. I don't know that there would be less requests, but there would be less requests filled if it actually costs money. That would be I would suspect that, but I don't know that because we haven't charged.
I was just curious, how far into the requesting process do you usually go before you realize, that it's more than just a 30-minute question and it would require discussions with the lawyer and all of that?
I'll let her answer that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more
Yeah,
time?
no, I'm sorry. Like, like how far, so after you receive a request, like how much are you usually able to understand, like within reading it, if the request is going to require a lot of time, discussion with the lawyer, et
Yes,
cetera?
typically,
Okay.
Especially when they say any and all.
Okay.
Or they're asking for things that I already know are maybe questionable, that are exempt. There's been several times I've had to consult with the city attorney to say, they're asking for this, it's, kind of wonky, and get an opinion on it. So, there are times that we have to consult with our legal staff.
So then we'd still sort of be at risk if requests are made that then aren't followed through with, that, the city's still on the hook for, attorney time and department head time for coming up with.
Sure. But again, part of that is what we're here
exactly,
for, right?
Exactly.
This is not that this should pay for itself. This is there an individual or need that's driving us in a direction to where it's not sustainable, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not hey, we believe in transparency, all of us. We have no problem going, hey, if I have it, you can have it. There's a lot of things that we get requested from the Corps, and I'm like, hey, if you can get it from the Corps, I'd like to see it, because I don't have it either. But those requests, again, because we're not sure if they exist, those things require the city engineer to be involved. They require community development. So you have employees that make more than $25 an hour that we're still not charging for, that are spending time going through folders and files and, where we've got IT back there doing searches because we want to make sure that this request is fully vetted through all of our email systems. Those things all take time. It's not that we're not here to serve. It's just when we look and we see, if there's one individual who is impacting our ability to provide equal or level services with the other 11,199 residents, that we have to look and say, is there something wrong here or something that we need to adjust?
Yes.
Sorry, one more thought. As part of the roadmap that you were talking about coming back with at the next, whenever we talk about this again, as part of the budget, would that also include kind of an idea of what, if we were to go with sort of like option 2, like what that process would look like, or like a high level idea of what that process would look like?
Yeah, we would have some sort of roadmap where we would say these type of requests that require maybe department heads would have this.
Yeah.
These type of requests that the clerk clearly can deal with in X amount of time would have no cost or this type of cost. You know, any and all type requests, which mean we have to have any and all email lists scoured, and we have to go through your emails, and asking for text messages that we have to go through people's phone. I mean, you know, it's the law, right? We're happy to comply. It just gets frustrating when it's, you know, that this is based upon someone's random curiosity, and you're going to get a response to that response asking a follow-up that's another level of information looking for something that we're pretty sure doesn't exist, or at least some sort of conspiracy that does not exist.
So, Mr. Engel, do you have enough information?
I believe I do,
from
yes.
us?
Madam President, I do.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, sir. Be sure, let's start the clock again, please.
Yes, you wouldn't want to give me too much time after that
Oh, I
hour of
wouldn't.
slander. Yes. So our city admin noted transparent government in our mission statement. And yet it's funny, this whole hour-long presentation didn't appear in the city council agenda that would normally be published and allow the public to prepare for remarks for items on the council agenda. I think that's pretty shady, and that's not an accident at all. Let's see, I took some notes because this is all a surprise to me that this is going to be discussed here. On March 18th, the city administrator directed staff to not respond to any emails unless there was a statutory or legal requirement such as open records. Our city administrator created the need for open records because he directed staff not to answer simple, easy questions that would have taken just a fraction of time. A simple email response is all that's needed in many cases. But no, there must be a single form that I was asked multiple times to fill out that's against state law to require a specific form. The online portal that the city has tried to use maybe is a good attempt, but it deletes the responses after 7 days. So, and it conflates the responses to requests. You can't tell which request a staff member is responding to. It's a terrible portal. So, yeah, there's a good reason why people don't use that. The public has a right to attend open meetings, despite the city not including them on their regular website. There's a page, a calendar on our website that includes city council and planning commission, et cetera. But Flags for Freedom, for example, doesn't appear on that, despite being a subcommittee of this city and subject to open meetings. I've addressed that with the mayor before, and it's gone on deaf ears. Those meetings still remain closed illegally to the public. That's not cool. The way this whole witch hunt has been put on is a shame on this city, and yeah, I can give you more thoughts later, but I'm still stewing in this. This is nuts. Shame on you all.
Okay, let's move on to our next item, which is a community development update. Mr. Dyer.
President, council members, Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. Just a quick update. We're getting closer to wrapping up our grant submittal time. For example, our sustainability grants and our exterior grants, just let everybody know that September 15th is your deadline for those. Exterior grants done quite well this year, where you've had about 50 applicants, got about 9,000 left of unallocated funds on that. So if someone has a project they'd like to do, please get that in. And then sustainability, even with the extremely hot weather, doesn't seem to have as many HVAC applicants as we've had in the past. So we've had about 14 applicants to that, and we still have plenty of funds left in that program. So if anybody's interested in it, please make sure they see Mr. David Easley. Property tax rebate grant, the deadline for that for application is August 29th. We have about $5,600 left in that. Again, that is an income-based grant program. It is for folks who are property owners, and it rebates just the city's portion of the property tax. And then the last thing I have on the grants for you this evening is the contractor on our driveway grants, he started the 5 driveways today. So the progress has been underway on that. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Director Dyer? No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our next is Director Worth for Finance Update.
Yes, good evening. I don't have anything new to report. Everything is still looking very much on track with expenditures and revenues. You'll see that we got our second large tranche of property tax in June. We expect to have, typically we see in about August, September, one more small tranche come in, but that is going to get us through essentially most of the year as far as property tax goes. But everything else is monthly or quarterly, so we're still looking great.
Could you tell me what word you were using?
Sorry, tranche. It came about a lot with finance when we started doing ARPA money, but it's essentially just the delivery of expected monies. So
Is
with
it an acronym or just a noun?
no, just a noun.
Okay.
So
you.
with property tax, we usually get two big each year. Sorry, we usually get
Alright.
two big lump sums, and then we'll see about two more small bundles of money. There we go. Sorry. Thank you. Yes.
It's fine. I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the transient guest tax, everything else was nice in the 30 percentile.
Yes.
Is that hopefully just a timing issue?
It is. We are currently looking into transient guest tax, actually. We have reason to believe that something interesting is going on with the revenue stream there. So as the finance director, I'm allowed to do an audit of all the documents that we receive. So that's actually something that was requested by other staff members, and I'm starting to look into at this point, just to make sure that everyone's paying as they should be and filing correctly. We see sometimes in other cities I've worked in where it's just they have an accountant doing the paperwork and it's not being done correctly. Maybe they think something is not taxable that should be, like a long stay, for example. So we are currently looking into that just to make sure, because it does look abnormal to me as well. So just to ensure everything's on the up and up, but I will report back as soon as I know.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions for Director Borth? Thank you very much. And the last item are staff items, informational items.
Did you have something? Yeah, I don't have anything, but I'm happy to answer
I
some
have
questions.
a couple,
Okay.
if you don't have
I'm
anything
happy to answer any
start.
questions that you have.
Okay. We received a energy and cost savings report that our intern, whose name is Zach Markison, put together that was really phenomenal, and I would love for one of you to speak to it.
Yes, Zach did a great job. Actually, he's been working for Celia in Public Works for the last month or so, and he put together a report that was in your admin report last week of the energy savings that our LED streetlights have been showing us over the course of their installation, which has been a few months now. And so it was a cost savings ratio analysis of both energy savings costs versus dollar savings costs. And so we're very proud of the report he put together.
It was overall 30%, that's what I'm thinking. That's just a phenomenal thing, and it's been so much effort on everyone's part to get it to happen, so.
I will add that I have not had an opportunity to read his report yet. I actually did receive an email from Evergy somewhere in the last 3 weeks where they were asking if something had occurred in a couple of our neighborhoods because their annual audit of the amount of electricity it was using had
They thought we had a
changed.
big power
Yeah, I
outage.
sent
that
an
we had
email to
complained
Public
about.
Works and I said, hey, is something going on up in this neighborhood? And they're like, yeah, we just put all LEDs up there.
That's
And
wonderful.
so, yeah, but it was clearly, they kind of had a little screenshot that was in the email that kind of showed where the numbers had went down. And
That's
so
wonderful.
it was enough that they reached out.
Okay, so that was one of my things. And then another one, anybody have any other comments on that? Another one for me was, I was wondering if we could get just kind of a general overview of flood and storm damage, because we were all, I know everyone was under the gun, so.
Sure. From what I know, and I would defer to maybe the police chief if he knows more, or public works director, most of the disruption from the flood occurred to the businesses north of Waterfall Park, where the water kind of flows out of Brown, left the bank and actually swept a Conex box, which is kind of like a big metal, considerably sized big metal box, as well as a dumpster, and took them across Merriam Drive and deposited them up against the fence. And then clearly, I think probably most of you saw the picture of the car that was elevated and kind of sitting on the fence. But there was quite a bit of water that got into the lower ends of those businesses, as I understand it. That morning, we went out, myself, a couple members of Public Works. We didn't see any water that got into any operating businesses on Merriam Drive, although the water came up in front of the marketplace. Rigdon, which is the business immediately to the north of the marketplace that we purchased, that was saturated. If you look at that, that actually sits lower than the other buildings around there. That's the only building that I'm aware of that got water in it, but it's a vacant building. It's ours, and we approved a demo permit on it recently.
And do
So
we think the water was from the creek or from the storm
I
drains?
don't know, because it was dark when it went up and it was dark when it came down, but it came up considerably high. I think you've seen the high water marks that were left in front of the marketplace. So, I mean, and the police officers did a couple water rescues, and I mean, it came up, but it was flashy. I couldn't tell you if it came in from the Merriam Drive Bridge. I couldn't tell you if one of the flap valves was closed and it backed up to street drainage, or I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
But that's the limit of the businesses that I know that were impacted.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing was, we have a ribbon cutting this week, so.
We do.
This is at Merriam Grand Station. No, it's this week, I believe. No, next week?
On the 7th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make July end quickly. Sorry. Yes, sir? Okay, we need to start the clock again, please.
Good heavens with that pesky clock. Yeah, so staff brought up the creek, which was also not on the agenda, surprise. And it did not exceed the banks inside of downtown Merriam, the area that staff has concerned everyone with flooding, which is obviously a thinly veiled disguise to destroy our downtown and gentrify it. Yeah, the flooding that did happen was outside of that area that has been projected to be worked on. I'll make a note of that, because that's something staff didn't point out.
Okay, so do we have other things to discuss with staff?
Are we allowed to have public comment if something isn't on the agenda?
Are we?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes, we have in the past. I'm going by historical stuff. Okay, given that, I'd accept a motion. Yeah, Rich.
President Hands, I move that we adjourn.
A second from someone? Yes?
I second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.